Welcome to today's episode, all about posturing. If you recall, so last week I did a special episode with my co-coach Francine, and we do collab coaching together. But in the week before that, I did an episode on positioning. So if you haven't listened to that yet, then pause this and go back to listen to that one, because posturing and positioning go hand in hand. And positioning is, really about you being willing to do the work and faithfully doing the work, regardless of if you're getting immediate results or not, right? It's really about that consistency. It's about being ready and willing. And it's so interesting. I was just at a Shackley meeting. I guess you could call it that. I don't know. We have a new compensation plan that's launching June 1st. And, the cool thing about this is it was a smaller group. So we got to do a lot of interaction with home office, which I love. I got to talk to Roger Barnett, who owns Shackley, actually several conversations. And, he had just mentioned something about I just to be in these situations where you would just happen to sit next to somebody and have this conversation that you know allows you to form these connections to make bigger impacts in different ways that you hadn't really planned for. And I love how he said just happened. And people call these things coincidences, and I truly don't believe in coincidence. I truly believe that those are orchestrated by the Lord, and you either notice them because you are postured to notice them, or you don't because you haven't creative margin. You are so frazzled or so busy that you can't see or hear or sense the promptings of the Holy Spirit in those moments. And so that's what this episode is about. This episode is about the posturing, because positioning is really just getting yourself out there and being ready and willing to do the work, as it comes. And, not having a plan, but holding it loosely, right? So that you can pivot quickly when different things come up, that kind of shift gears on you, right? It's so interesting. Our comp plan is changing. It hasn't changed in 14 years. I've only been in the company for just over 10 years now, and so I've always had the same compensation plan. And it's been great. But it's going to be even greater because you sell more, make more, super simple. But it's interesting because change is hard for people, right? Change is hard for all of us unless we learn to shift our thinking about change. I just know change happens all the time, and it's an adventure because it's going to allow me opportunities to grow. It's going to allow me to be even more flexible with the way that I hold the plans that I make, right? And I think that it provides a challenge that we can grow through, right? If we're willing to go through it. And I think the other thing about change is inevitable, right? Everything's always changing. I mean, look at 5 years ago versus now, 10 years ago versus now, massive leaps of change. And I love looking at the example of 2019 versus 2020. And if you were a business and you did not innovate and pivot quickly and creatively, your business essentially died or limped along for as long as it could and then died. And so I always love looking back at that example. It was the people who were able to say, okay, this sucks. We can't change these things, but okay, what can we do? What can we do? What have we not done before? What is something that, we can what's a different angle we can look at this? And you looked at restaurants, and we lived in California at the time where the rules were really strict. And, restaurants really struggled. And it was the restaurants that quickly pivoted and started doing outdoor seating, open air seating, that were able to stay open. And the ones who didn't, the ones who refused to do anything, they closed down. And actually one of those businesses was one that had been around since, I want to say it was World War II, World War I, or World War II. I don't know. It was a long time restaurant. It was really awesome and we loved it. And they decided to close their doors because they weren't willing to make the changes that were necessary to survive through that time. Um, and honestly, the cost to them at the time was just not worth it in the long run. They wanted to retire anyway. So, so all that to say, posturing though, so positioning is willingness to be there doing the work, right? Posturing is who we're giving the glory to, our definition of success. Like, what is it that we're actually working for, right? And you can very simply think of this through the imagery of like, what is your posture standing in front of somebody, right? Like, what's your posture standing in front of your children versus your posture standing in front of your spouse? Or what's your posture? What would your posture be standing in front of the Lord versus standing in front of a mirror looking at yourself, right? And so, too often, and I've been, this is one of the things that God has brought to my attention over the last year, is that I was working towards my definition of success for my own glory. And essentially, I was putting myself on the throne. I was leaning into that self reliance of like, I can do it myself and I will do it all myself, without ever stopping to think, like, should I be doing it this way? And what is the real payoff? And the crazy thing is, when you posture yourself for your own glory and you posture yourself to hold the success on your shoulders, and that is what you're working for every single time you hit a goal, no matter how big or small, it's going to feel like going to get a drink out of a bottle of water only to find that it's empty. And you're ready to move on to the next one. And it's a feeling like, if you understand what I'm talking about, you totally get this. But like, maybe you're not there yet and you're just not sure. So some good ways to check in with your posture is to ask yourself, whose will am I acting out every day? Like, am I resting? Am I in the word? Am I praying? Am I even stopping to ask the question of whose will am I doing? And, am I willing, if God were to come along today and be like, listen, we're going in this direction and this is the direction I'm taking your business, or what if he was like, I don't want you in this business anymore, I have something else for you? Would you be willing to lay it down at his feet? And essentially, that is what posturing is it's laying down our plans, our will, our business, our results, the way that we think our business should go, at his feet, and doing that daily, submitting our time to him, our efforts to him, our energy to him, and ultimately our direction and success, and really redefining what success is. This is something we walked through with our clients inside Collab Coaching recently, was, what is your definition of success? And we walked them through multiple exercises of this, like, how is success defined in a dictionary? What would you think the world's definition of success is in a business, or, for your kids or whatever, and then what, from the word, like, what is God's definition of success? And how would you take the 7 F's, which Francine and I talked about last week. We had the 7 F's, whether that's friends, family, field, finances, fitness. I'm forgetting 2, but it doesn't matter. And then for each of these buckets, how is success defined by you? And is it only being defined by you? And what is influencing that? Is the world influencing your definition of success, or is God influencing your definition of success in these things? And I like to use the example of, our world, especially here in the Western culture, success for our children is pretty much defined as they do well in school, they do well in sports, and they do all the sports, and they spend a lot of time in the sports, right? And they go to a good college, and they get a good job, and they marry a good spouse, and they have they make a lot of money, right? Like, that is our worldly definition of success. And so myself, our family, that's not our definition of success when it comes to our children. Now, our kids are still in school and they still do sports, but we have some pretty strict parameters when it comes to what takes precedence over other things. So we don't engage in games or practices on Sundays unless we are able to go to church on Saturday. Thankfully, our church does have services on Saturday nights, which has been really great for us. So we've been able to have a little bit more flexibility in that versus, one of the clubs that we put our our kids wanted to be in for football and our girls for cheer. Their games are just about every other Sunday during the season. And so if we didn't have that option for Saturday night church, like, we probably wouldn't be signing them up, or we wouldn't have signed them up for that this year. And so, it's things like that. Like, what are the non-negotiables? And that is the direction we need to go with posturing is, what are the non-negotiables? But really filtering it through that definition of success as defined by the Lord for our lives. And that is how we get alignment. That is how we have alignment in our business and our lives and all of these different facets, is by submitting that definition of success, by posturing ourselves to have God on the throne, not ourselves, not for our glory. Will those things come? I mean, from a worldly stance, like, everything belongs to the Lord. So, it's not like if you do good, good will happen to you. We know that that's not true, right? If you work hard, you will succeed. We also know that that's not necessarily true either, right? You know, it's a very different way of thinking than what the world says is true and what the world defines these things as in success. So for us, for our kids, success is straight up their obedience to the Lord, whatever that looks like. Like, if our kids want to go to school or not go to school, or get married or not get married, or, have whatever kind of work that they're doing, like, I literally do not care the details of it, as long as they have submitted it to the Lord and they are following him willingly, obediently, and quickly and fully. Like, that's all I care about. I really don't care about anything else. I don't care about their grades. I mean, obviously, we work through the filter of everything for the glory of the Lord. So obviously we wouldn't accept our children just, ho humming it and, doing a shoddy job in school because of laziness, right? Like, no, we're doing our schoolwork for the glory of the Lord, right? Like, we're participating in sports to the glory of the Lord, not ourselves and not our parents or even our teams. Like, that's why we can show up with excellence, because in everything that we do, it's for God's glory, not our own, and not because we're looking for some accolades from the rest of the world. And this is very, very easy to get out of alignment quickly. And I fell into that. And as I said, this is what God has been revealing to me, is that, my posture was just all wrong. And the scariest part, which I've shared before, is I didn't even know it. Like, I didn't even realize how much, because I would think in my head, like, I do everything for the glory of the Lord. Like, and like, I would think those things and like say those things, but like, I wasn't actually submitting myself to the Lord. Like, I was just running into goals and pressing hard, never stopping to ask myself if I should, or asking myself if this was the right season, if this is where God wanted me at this time, if this is how he wanted me to show up. And so a lot of that led out because I just wasn't submitting my will to the Lord's. And, it's not that I inherently did anything that was wrong in the overwhelming sense, but it was more of, I paid some expenses, that God never asked me to do. And, it led to overwhelm, and different things like that. And so, like, it's kind of crazy though, like, when you are postured with God on the throne in submission, hands open to his will in your business and in your life, the work is easier. Like it's still work, but it feels so much easier because of those coincidences, right? Like those orchestrated things from God. So I just have to share an example. Actually, yesterday, so Francine and I are looking for different ways that we can serve in different capacities, because primarily now, we're serving people within our wellness company. And there are so many other companies out there, right? And businesses and fields where mindset is a big deal for all of them, right? And we have our experience in the network marketing, social selling, digital sales area, the industry, so we have our experience there. And so we understand that the best. But at the end of the day, mindset is mindset and it applies to everyone. And so we were just brainstorming some ideas of how we could expand into other companies or fields or whatever. And so we reached out to somebody who is at a different company, and we had a conversation with him. And honestly, it's funny because like as I connected with him and sent him the message, I was just like before I sent it, I sent it to Francine and I was like, does this sound okay? Because I'm just like, hey, like this is what we're doing. We're wondering if there's any way we can talk about some kind of a partnership, like in a way that like we could serve you, but also like get out there and expand a little bit more and that kind of thing. Anyways, and he was totally willing. And it was crazy. So yesterday we were on the phone with him and he's like, it's so funny. Like, it seems so ironic that you guys reached out to me because he's like, I'm literally planning our conference right now and like writing my training and speech. And he's like, and mindset is like, and it's like, okay, so from everybody outside looking in, they're like, oh yeah, that's totally a coincidence. Like, that's weird, like whatever. And Francine are just like, this is how it goes for us. Like, as long as we're willing to put legs on that prayer, right? That's the positioning part. Like, we positioned ourselves, like we did the scary ask, like we're doing the things. God is behind the scenes orchestrating in what seems like coincidences, and it is absolutely not. And that's because of our posture in God, we're here. Like Isaiah said, I'm here, Lord, send me. We don't know where or what we're going to be doing, but we're willing to put ourselves out there and do the scary work and have conversations and those kinds of things. And it's just amazing to me to see, like, it surprises me every time, and yet it doesn't. Like, I should just expect that God is going to do crazy things because he always does. But then every time it happens, I'm just like, would you look at that? Like, Francine and I geek out over it every time. Like, it's just so cool because at the end of the day, neither one of us like had this on our bingo card, right? Like of what we were going to be doing, like a collaboration, a partnership of coaching. And it's just really, really cool, you guys. Like, and that's the way that the Lord works. Like first he needs to reveal our brokenness to us, right? Like the darkness that's in our heart, the sin that is weighing us down, the things that are blinding us to the fact that we're doing all of this, outside of his will on our own strength and in our own powers and our own plans, right? And like he has to reveal those things to us, and it kind of hurts. Like it's painful. The breaking is painful. The shaking of all the identities that we once thought really defined us. Like I would define myself, or I did, as an achiever, right? Someone driven to success. And honestly, what I'm saying is that's not necessarily an accurate identity. And that's not what makes me me. I am a hard worker and I am willing to do the work. And I'm willing to be consistent when, results aren't there, and just to keep going because I know they will be eventually, right? But like my identity is in the Lord and who he says I am. And all of those other things are characteristics and qualities that he's given me, but those don't define me. Right? Like those don't direct my life. They help me in the direction of my life that he has given me, but they don't define my life. And so shaking me of those things has been painful also, and surprising, but also so freeing, because it's like you're wearing this backpack of all these sins that you're not even aware of. You're wearing this backpack of all these identities that you like think, make you. that give you your worth. Like that's a big one, right? And it's like through this breaking and this shaking in the wilderness, God's like taking that backpack off of us and we can run so much faster. I mean, think about it. Think about carrying a rucksack with like 100 pounds in it and trying to run and then taking that off and how much lighter you're going to feel and so free. And like, you might even like do some jumps and some heel clicks and right. Like it's just amazing. And then there's the remaking season. And this is kind of like where I am right now is, God is showing me who he says I am. He is showing me what he wants my business to look like, all aspects of it, whether it's my wellness business in partnership with Shackley, or, it's coaching my team, or it's doing mindset coaching for other people who are in the industry, who are entrepreneurs, especially showing up in the online space, like, or it's with fitness and personal training, like all of these different things he is shaping. And that's what I want. Like I was actually just earlier, I was doing some journaling because unscripted journaling, it can really help us to get the things that are going on up in our head out on paper. It's a great place for us to ask questions, like hard questions of ourselves, and really, work through that. If you didn't catch the episode on unscripted journaling, go back and listen to that. It's going to be super helpful. That is the number one tool that we lead with and teach inside Collab Coaching, because it's so helpful to get it all out and to really work through it and see any patterns, or, have any moments of like, oh my gosh, like awareness and clarity of what's going on inside our head. And so I'm like journaling this morning because, I went to this meeting last night and, a lot of these people had just gotten back from the incentive trip that I did not earn this year. And that's okay. I didn't work for it. So therefore I shouldn't have earned it, right? Like that totally makes sense. And I am okay with that. But I'm like, okay, I'm in a position now where the trip for next year could be and is very doable, but it will still take some intentional hard work, right? And so I'm just in this place of like, God, I know I can earn this trip. Like I'll get out there and hustle my butt off. Like, I will, but that's not the point. Like where I'm at right now in this remaking season is, submitting everything to his will and timing and being willing to do the work as he leads me, but not forcing it or hustling or, just forgetting that he's on the throne and then me just over here like doing my own thing, like, chugging along, those kinds of things. Like, and so I just, as I'm journaling, like, I just, I'll okay, this is kind of crazy. I'll read you some stuff that I wrote. Like, said, I'm struggling in this place of what business looks like to trust in God's provision, working faithfully and going hard to earn this next trip. I know I can, but should I? Is it the right season? Does it align with how and where God has me now? I don't want it for my own glory, but for his. But what does that look like? Is it simply in bowing my own will daily? Is it simply positioning myself as he brings the people? Does it mean not going out to actively find people? Or is that fear holding me back? How quickly my brain forgets and my memory fades of what it looked like to earn the trip in 2021 for not just me, but Zach too. I don't feel like I hustled for it, but I worked hard. I say def a lot. Definitely, I don't like spelling that word. It's never fun. I have to like slow down. Kind of like Wednesday. Anyway, I want that alignment now, but rightly built to honor and glorify God, not me. And so then I like to move into prayers in my journals a lot because it really helps me stay focused. I don't know if your brain's like mine, but it's like squirrel, lots of tabs open. I get very distracted in my brain when I'm just praying inside my head. So I like to write my prayers out. So this is my prayer, you guys. I said, Lord, show me your will in the season of business. I am here, Lord. Use me as you will. I'd really like to earn that trip and take our whole family, Lord. I really want them to experience this blessing on a deeper level too. I can, but I want your provision as it is the only way it lasts. I submit my business to you, my will to you, my desires, dreams, and plans. I'm willing, Lord. Amen. So I didn't plan on reading that today. And honestly, I'm kind of tearing up reading it right now. But like that is my prayer right now, because like I know what it looks like and feels like to work for my own success and glory. And guys, at the end of the day, it just leaves you feeling empty and looking for that next moving horizon thing. I mean, like this is why I got crazy with running. And like immediately the day I finished my half marathon, I was like, what's next? Like, let's sign up for the whole marathon, and like never could celebrate that success or the work that went into it or any of that. Like, and like that's how it was when I earned the cruise back in, was that like 2019 or whatever. Maybe it was before that, 2018. I don't know. Anyway, because I never stopped in that season to ask God if it was the right time. I just said, can I do it? Yes, I can. So I will. And I did. But I'll tell you, like, even though I didn't do anything unethical to earn it, like, I still didn't do the work in a way that, like, was in alignment with my mission to really help people help themselves, like, really help people who wanted to be a lifer, like someone who really wanted to take wellness into their own hands, or someone who really wanted to build a business. And so a lot of the growth that came during earning that cruise, it quickly faded away. And people didn't want to do the business at the end of the day, right? And that's totally fine, right? But like I have a different perspective for who I want to work with now, because like working with my business leaders, like they are on a mission, and like Shaklee helps them do that, right? But like Shaklee is not the main thing. It's just the thing that allows them to do the other things that are more important. And it's like, so now when I'm talking to people and they're like, yeah, I might want to do this business, I'm like, I don't know, like, let's see. Like, I'm like, pump the brakes. Like, it's hard work. Like, I never want to like convince somebody not to do something if they really want to, right? Like, or, discourage them from doing that, obviously. But like, I know how much work it takes, and I know the mindset that has to go into it. And I know that most people are not willing to do it. I mean, the great news is with a new comp plan, we're going to get paid more faster, right? Like that's awesome. But like I want to work with people who want to do this because they see how it aligns with their overall mission in the way that God has called them, right? Like it's not the main thing, because there's been points in my life where my business became everything to me. Like it was where I found my friends in my community. It was fitness. It was faith. It was, field and finances, and fun. Like it was all of the things. And the problem is when anything except God becomes all the things, that's a problem. And that's a posturing problem, because that's putting whatever that thing is that has become all the things to us on the throne of God. And it's never going to go well for very long, right? Like, I mean, oh my gosh, like look at every single story of like, people who made it famous, right? And like had all the money and all the things and everything, and they still weren't satisfied, because the one thing that could actually give them fulfillment and fill their soul is working for the glory of the Lord and not our own success. And yeah, it's just crazy, guys. Like this whole thing that God's had me in the wilderness of the breaking and the shaking and the remaking. And I mentioned I am writing a book about this. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but God put it on my heart. So we will see where that continues to go. It's funny. So I don't know if you are a writer. Like clearly I like to journal. I like to write. But I think most writers say like 500 words a day is a great goal, but I actually don't prefer to write like that. And maybe I'm just a rebel. I mean, I am a rebel 100%, like in all things. I am. I go against the flow, but I prefer to sit down like when I'm, feeling inspired and feel like, God has given me the words to say. Like actually Sunday at church, like I almost got my notebook out and started like jotting down some things, because like as I'm listening to Pastor Errol like preach, I'm just like, gosh, I just like felt like this overwhelming like sense in my soul of like the Holy Spirit being like, I want this in your book, and I want this in your book, and oh yeah, I want this in your book. And like it was just prompting me to think of like all these thoughts of whatever. Anyway, and so like when I have those moments and I want to like sit down and write, like I'll crank out 10,000 words. Like that's my style, right? And so I know right now my goal is to go for at least 50,000 words, I think. And honestly, I don't even know where I'm at right now. Let's check. Let's see. So I am at, okay, so I'm about 7,000 words. Okay, so maybe not 10,000 words in one sitting. That was I was a little much. That's kind of like the time when someone was talking about taking out the trash, and I was like, yeah, we only take it out once a week. Perspective was wrong because I'm not actually the one in the house that takes out the trash. Either Zach or Gabe does. It's primarily Gabe. So I didn't even realize that we were probably taking out a bag of trash like every couple days or so. So that's funny. Yeah. So no, I don't sit down and write 10,000 words. It's probably more like a couple of thousand in a setting, but isn't that funny? Perspective is everything, you guys. So posturing. This whole episode is about posturing because I think it's so important that we keep God on the throne. And it's so easy to get off the throne. And here's the other crazy thing about this, because the way that our world defines success, like all of the sins and darkness that I struggled with without even knowing it, of self-reliance, of arrogance, pride, vanity, all of those things, like those are things that are celebrated by our world, right? Like those are things that are high-fived. Those are things that are encouraged. And I think that that is the danger of, if you're someone like me, like maybe you don't necessarily have external sins in the sense of like, I don't know, like sins that other people can see or feel, right? Like I feel like when it comes to like arrogance and pride and vanity, like all of that is like all up in our head, right? And it does show in the things that we do and the way that we lead ourselves. But typically it goes along with people pleasing. And so it tends to be welcomed, right? Like, and celebrated. And that's why it's so dangerous, because we don't even know it. It's like this root that has taken depth in our souls, and we don't even know it's there. And we can't even see like how much it has overtaken everything, and everything that we do is filtered through that. And that's why the breaking hurts so much, when God gives you that moment of revealing the darkness of your soul and why you needed Jesus to die on the cross for you, like, and how you are the worst sinner that you know, because you're the only one you know, but you've not been knowing how deep and dark it really went. Guys, man, that's a moment. If you've had a moment like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't yet, I highly recommend Dangerous Prayers by Craig Rochelle. It's only for the brave. It's funny because I recommended one of my friends read this, and she started reading it, and she's like, I kind of wish I hadn't read it, because it's one of those, like, when after like, you don't have any excuses, and it's like, now you're challenged, right? Like there is simplicity in the not knowing, right? But is that really wise? Like, I don't know what I don't know, right? But that should spawn us on and challenge us to learn so that we can grow. Because we can't grow if we don't know. You should put that on a t-shirt. You can't grow if you don't know. Anyway, but yeah. So posturing. The practical steps of doing this is simply going before the Lord and asking him, what is his will, and willingly, and only you know this, if you're willing or not. Like, I mean, think of was it the young man who was like, oh, I got to go home and bury my dead first. And Jesus was like, yeah, let the dead bury themselves. This is me we're talking about. And, I always think of that, like, when it comes to my plans and my will, that is me saying, oh, I've got to go do this first, but then I'll obey. Like, I want to obey, but like, can you just wait like a minute until I like achieve this goal and then like we will talk, right? No, no, there's so much blessing that's missed out in that. And so just so much that is just goes under the radar because we're not sensitive to the promptings of the Holy Spirit to have the conversations, to connect with people, to see what it is that He's bringing us and what He wants us to be positioned to take care of and to help. I mean, can you imagine if Noah was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to build that boat, or build it this way instead? Like, this sounds better, or I don't really like the animals that you brought on the board. I'm gonna go get some of the ones that I want, and like, or like there's some like cool dudes in town, like I think I want to bring them. Like, can you imagine if he did any of that? Like, now Noah was an imperfect man, to be sure, right? And God loves to use imperfect people, thankfully, because we're all imperfect. But like, that's what we're doing when God's like, I brought you into this business. Like, this is a plan I have for you. Like, this is the timeline that I have for you. I'm not going to show you what it is, but I need you to trust me in this. I need you to trust in my provision and my timing. And we're like, that's what we're doing. We're not submitting our will. We are willingly being disobedient, because delayed obedience is disobedience, guys. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a parenting thing, but it is. And so just praying that, starting with a prayer of like, God, make me willing and obedient all the time. Like, help me to get to the point where I'm like Isaiah and I'm like, I'm here, send me. Like, I don't need any details. I will go. You say go, I will go. You say jump, I will say how high, or I'll just start jumping and then you could tell me like to adjust, right? Like, those kinds of things, and doing it all from the posture of His glory, His kingdom, blessings that He wants us to have, because He has refined us enough to be able to take care of those things, right? Like, He's not going to let you take care of things that you're not going to take care of well, because you have a history of not taking care of them well. Maybe that's your health. Maybe that's your family. Maybe that's your finances. Maybe that's the fact that He's been putting something on your heart for a while now, and you've been too scared to do it. It's those kinds of things, guys. Like, that's where that willingness and all of that stuff comes up. And I challenge you today to really pray the dangerous prayers when it comes to following the Lord with all your heart and with all your willingness in all the things, no matter what that looks like, no matter how scary that is, no matter how few details you have. It doesn't matter. Like, run with it when He's giving you the green light. But also, when He's giving you a red light or a yellow light, slow down or stop and wait. And just understand that in the waiting doesn't mean we just sit and twiddle our fingers. Like, in the waiting, we are actively positioning ourselves, right? Like, and we are growing through that, but we're still trusting in His provision, but we're still actively watching and working and doing those things, keeping Him on the throne. So I hope this challenges you guys today, and I hope this lights a fire under you to really step back and review how it is that you are showing up to do the things, and why are you doing them, and what is the definition of success that's driving you, and do you need to shift that a little bit, and yeah, and it'll change everything for you guys. Like, it really will. It's changed everything for me. It's amazing. Like, just a couple months ago, I was like, Lord, I'm just really struggling right now. Like, I don't know what work looks like submitted to you without like the hustle and the things, right? Or taking it into my own hands, but like still doing the work. And He brought me 4 new customers in 1 month, like brought them to me. And I had to faithfully take care of them, and I had to be positioned to do that, right? Like, go back to the positioning episode. This is what that's talking about. And but He made it very clear that like, I want you here and I am bringing the provision, but I need you to take care of it, and I need you most of all to give me the glory and not yourself. And you can't work for your success, because it just doesn't work. And I had the evidence of that in my history, that you know it's just not, it's not fulfilling, and it's not the kind of work that I want to do anymore ever again. But I'm willing to do the hard work. I just don't want to do it for my own glory, because I'm not designed, like, God did not create me to be able to even hold that success on my shoulders. Like, it will crush me. And he knows that, and it's all for his glory, because he is the only one that can bear that and lead us to use it wisely for his influence and for his good. Um, anyway, so I hope you guys enjoy this.